That's actually good. I wanted to ask you about some Netflix and other things and the blurred lines between fiction and nonfiction. And you actually mentioned you draw, of course, from your vast experience, and then you write fiction. These days, there are such a rash of these things called docu-series where it touches on, I don't know, it grabs real people, real events, and then it's like almost posing as a documentary, but not. And I think you're a great person to ask about this because you have been through this experience on the other end of it, wherein in 2019, Netflix did this docu-series called When They See Us by Anna DuVernay about the Central Park Five, which is an event from the 80s. And you were at the DA's office at that time. And they attributed words and actions to you that you say and didn't neither said nor did.
Correct.
And so you sued. And
yes, for defamation.
Sued for defamation. The judge looking into this went to DuVernay and said, well, where's your source material for these scenes where Linda said and did these things? Her response was, well, it's not a documentary. And to which I'm sure the judge then assumed, so there is no source material to support these scenes. Netflix had a statement arguing, in the gist of their argument was there needs to be leeway and that artistic leeway and that these kinds of things shouldn't be held to a journalistic standard. So I think the judge is seeing all this, and of course it settled, and the settlement required Netflix to pay $1 million to the Innocence Project, and they had to change the messaging when you stream this. Up front, the messaging now says inspired by and fictionalized, events are fictionalized here. So
because DuVernay admitted actually that she invented is the word she used, my dialogue, and invented my actions. So that was a big part of the judge's decision in refusing to dismiss the case.
So she did say the word invented, which is just amazing to me that it's even positioned anywhere near the documentary category. So I was wondering if you could talk about reputation and the responsibility for an artist, whether it's a writer or a filmmaker, in how they treat their projects that handle real people and real events.
I think the simplistic part of it is, had Netflix and DuVernay and Locke not used my name, had they said, Jane Doe did this, that, and the other, I wouldn't have had a lawsuit. They billed it as a true story.
Even if they used real names all around you and had your real title, just with a different name?
I would have had a very rough time.
That'd be a pretty thin veneer.
It was a pretty thin veneer, thin ice, as it were. But they just took the liberty, and again, there's something called discovery in a trial and pretrial process, in which all of this came out. The emails, the Netflix executives asking, did she really do those things? She, being Fairstein, really do those things? And no, I invented it because I figured that's what she would be like. Mm-hmm. Somebody who never met me. I was not
Netflix
the prosecutor
was surprised
case.
Even at the extent to which she was inventing.
Yeah, but they got right in bed, but they didn't put a stop to it. They didn't change anything.
They knew that only upon the defamation lawsuit, or they knew that even when it was in production?
They knew that because there was, in fact, a real documentary about the case. Mm-hmm. And again, I was not the prosecutor. I didn't take the statements from the young men involved. And there was an ABC documentary about 6 months before this one aired. And the Netflix executives wrote to DuVernay and said, Fairstein isn't even in this one. It doesn't look like she had a role.
Yeah.
And DuVernay chose not to read, said she wouldn't read the real transcripts. She wouldn't read the case record, all of which is public record. Anybody listening can go on and find the record of the trial.
So what was her inspiration for the invention? Like, how did she even get onto your name? She just decided this is the character I'm going to have represent these.
I can't tell you because I don't know her, but I would think because I was the visible person, I was the known name as a best-selling author, and the other characters who really worked on the case weren't known to anybody, and it was just a good way to take a shot at me.
It seems so irresponsible, and I feel like I see it every time. So now when I turn into Netflix and I hear, so there's this term, you know it, docu-series, which is like, I don't know if it's documentary light or what that even means, but it's not a documentary.
Correct.
And it's all over the place. There's this one out now that's getting some buzz on the Menendez brothers, and they've basically invented, as best I can tell, they've invented an incestuous relationship between the brothers for which there is no evidence. It's based on Dominic Dunn's interpretation of what may have happened. And so they've put it in this thing, but now everyone's watching this thing thinking that's
this is
what
the
happened.
way it goes. Because as soon as they use the word docu, and so the bastardized words are docudrama and docu-series, they're not saying documentary. But nobody's really, the viewer said, oh, docu-series, docudrama must be real.
Is it just a legal get-out-of-jail-free card? Because it's still using real events, real people. You can take this all the way to The Crown, that show.
Yes.
Which is using, Prince Charles is in some place and in history, he went to that place on that date. And then they have Prince Charles do all these things that he never did. If I were Prince Charles, I'd be like, this is nuts. None of that happened. I was there on that date, but this whole thing is invented.
Yes, and they were, they've got Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip in their bedroom having conversations.
Yeah.
And obviously nobody knows what those were. And
that one actually, to its credit, to some extent, holds itself out there as a fictionalized thing. Like, we're just having a show here. But it gets to that blur. So there's almost a scale of these blurred lines.
But they did that late. And you may recall the Queen was dying when episode 5 or 6 aired. And the royal family didn't sue, but sort of begged Netflix, with Dame Judi Dench leading the charge with the royal family, to put a disclaimer on the film. And Netflix wouldn't. And that was what the Netflix lawyers kept telling our lawyers was such a big loss for them in this case, because it was the first time they had to put a disclaimer at the front of a docuseries, docudrama.
Yeah. So, sorry, but that was a suit, or that was someone just sort of advocated for them to do that?
We said
was illegal.
Our side said, you'd better do that.
I mean, in your case,
yes,
yeah.
But theirs was just a request from
Has anyone else sued besides you, to your knowledge?
Oh, yeah. And Netflix has more than 19 lawsuits. I think the next highest about docuseries might be HBO or Max, which have 2 or 3. So there's a new one that's controversial now, Baby Reindeer.
Yes.
They've sued.
By the way, I watched that. That was like, have you seen that?
No.
Oh my God, it's nuts.
Okay, it sounds like a
dark,
nuts story.
But, it was captivating, but gross. And I did hear there was something.
Yes.
Someone came out of the woodwork on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just know that we've been getting a lot of calls, my lawyers and I, about how we handled Netflix. But
has anyone else successfully sued? I mean, you're settled, and I would say the settlement is a success for you.
I would too.
By far, a reputational slam dunk success for you.
Thank you.
Has anyone else successfully sued?
Do you remember The Queen's Gambit, the movie The Queen,
about chess.
the Russian chess player? Yeah. So there is an 80-something-year-old woman whose name escapes me, Russian, and in the movie, a single line says that there was never a woman grandmaster who defeated a male grandmaster. And this woman, Nina Aniashvili, I mean, it's a name that I'm wrecking, actually did. And she sued, and it was one line, and they knew they'd gotten it wrong, and they just immediately settled and changed the line or removed the line.
All right, so
but others I don't
cured
know about
the breach there.
Yeah,
and they actually paid money.
Paid $5 million.
So I have in my notes here that HBO had a statement too. There's another one of these docudrama series things on the Lakers called Legacy, and HBO had a statement saying it was it's quote fictionalized in part for dramatic purposes. So it needs a new name. Like, I think docu needs to be out of it. It's just fiction.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. They're just fictional TV series, whatever those should be called. But
even still, it's because The Crown is not. I don't think they ever should put docu. I'm not sure that's enough. It's all real names.
Yeah,
the legacy thing on the Lakers, it's all events that we know with some percentage invented. We don't know which percentage. And some of it is reputationally damaging to people.
Yes.
I don't know what the way forward is there.
I don't either, but I'd like to work on one with whoever wants to work with me.
So as far as you know, there are 2 successful suits, yours and the one on the Queen's Gambit.
I think there were a couple of others. I remember studying this during the pendency of our lawsuit, because when my lawyer wrote to me and said there are actually 19 lawsuits against Netflix and the next highest is 2, next highest company, I was shocked and began going through them. And I think maybe 2 were thrown out. There's a movie called Inventing Anna, which is about a Cuban refugee. I think that's still pending. A couple were thrown out, and I think a couple may have been settled with not a non-disclosure of what the settlement was.
Mm-hmm.